that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. Hello, everybody. Let's engage as we return to the Star Trek literary universe. Today we have Star Trek Rise of the Federation 4, again by Christopher L. Bennett. Live by the code. Now, I really don't have too much to say here. We continue on with where we left off in the previous book. The inclusions here is we have the Klingons are kind of a bigger deal, and we still have the struggles going on all the way back from the show, from stuff that happened with Phlox and everything, and the smooth heads, as they call it, so they could explain away TOS's episode where we have smooth head Klingons, you know. And so with that, we have that going on, along with the Ware still being a threat, and, you know, the Orion Syndicate crime people still kind of doing stuff in the background, and it's all kind of just fine. I really don't have much to say about this book. It's not a bad book. It's pretty solid like the last one, but I think one of the things that hinders it for me, and this, you know, I mean, if you're reading this, you're a Star Trek fan, right? So presumably you've watched at least Enterprise. Well, I assume you've read more than that. So you've watched TOS, or you've watched TNG or Deep Space Nine, especially where the Klingon stuff is especially heavy in those last two that I mentioned. And so when you get to this, which, I mean, it's an earlier version of them, right? So it's a little different. There's different stuff going on. But at the end of the day, you can only explore a universe so much with the same species and keep it interesting. I mean, I suppose we, the human race, are one species and have such a vast history across the world, but as Star Trek tends to be, and as many universes tend to be, they're not that diverse. It's one of the most unrealistic things about fiction, and it's not always the case, but it tends to be, that when you find an entire race or civilization of people, they are, you know, they may have differences here and there, but they are almost universally the same in ideology, in mindset. Here you go, whereas humanity, you can find vastly different beliefs and vastly different held moral systems. Just go across the continent real quick. All that to say, the Klingon stuff is fine, but we've been there and done that, so it just kind of fails for me. The only other thing of note to really say is that we have Phlox. We probably get the most in terms of character development, or not necessarily character development. I mean, Phlox doesn't really change, but the most time really devoted to him in like ever. As here we go to Denobula, because his youngest daughter is getting married. And so we're there for that. Meanwhile, we also learn that Phlox has a son that is kind of a racist or speciesist, doesn't like... There was this problems that Denobians have with these people called the Antarans back in the ancient days or whatever. Even pretty recently. And Phlox has worked at not allowing his bias to enter into things, because his daughter's marrying one. And he had his own reservations about them in the past. But he's trying to move forward. But his son refuses to. So that's a bit of the fun that you get to have in this book. It's just like Denobula gets a little bit more love and attention. Phlox gets a little bit more love and attention by virtue of it being about his daughter and son. We are getting growing information about him. So by and large, if you're a Phlox fan, you're going to have some fun with this book. And then, of course, we figure out more about the Ware and stuff going on in that front. You also get Tucker and friends finally getting fed up with Section 31, seemingly so that in the final book, they're going to dismantle them, or however they currently are, whoever they currently are. Of course, the branch, Section 31, no matter what happens in the next book, will not go away, as we know that their influence exists for a long time. Of course, the current people in charge may not be in charge any longer. So, yeah, it was fun. It was a solid book. I don't think I liked it more than the last one, but it was fun, and it's a solid continuation moving on from these 5 books that are meant to take place after the show. So, I do recommend it. Um, just didn't like it as much. But I'm gonna get into some spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, there's the door. So I don't have too much. Um, there's a wonderful discussion in the beginning that Phlox and this Klingon have on fatherhood. We learn that T'Pol and Trip, their minds are no longer connected. We don't exactly know the reason for this. They speculate, it could be because in the last book, somebody tried to force a mind meld on T'Pol, but even then she tried reaching out to Trip and couldn't find him. So for whatever reason, maybe it was because she was messed with by those I guess kind of, I don't know what you call them, the Pafarin or whatever I forget what they're called, but the people in like season 2 or 1 that kind of assaulted T'Pol, which by assaulting her might have increased her brain, her telepath power for a bit, so it gave her an unusually strong bond with the man she loved. But enough time has passed. Again, these are all speculations. It could be it could be numerous things. It could be the stuff in the expanse, that messed with her body. It could be numerous things, but all that matters is the deep, um, connection that they had in terms of the mind. I don't mean in terms of their heart, that's still there. But in terms of being able to sense each other from large distances, that's seemingly going away. So that's just something to know. We also figure out, and of course you have to, the more you explain something, it does kind of ruin the mystery a bit, but that happens with all things when you explain it, right? It's the same thing with aliens. It's the same thing with Predator. The more you know, the less scary things are. The greatest fear is fear of the unknown, as H.P. Lovecraft so aptly put it. But we learn that the Were is not an AI in the strictest sense. It's not like the Borg. Everything it does is kind of random. These things had one purpose: to help people and to repair themselves when need be. And they've adapted to repair themselves by any means necessary. Very, Doctor Who did an episode like this in season 2 with David Tennant. What was the episode title? I forget the episode title, but was written by Stephen Moffat, and David Tennant just go, "I just kissed Madame de Pompadour." It's kind of like that, but so it's just, as we learn more about the Were, the threat. I mean, there's still a threat, right? Like intellectually understand it, but the fear of like, what is this? Like, why does it exist? That existed in that episode in the show because they didn't explain anything. As we get explanations, yes, it's a little bit less scary now. The Antarans really want to execute Flock's son because Flock's son decided to commit some acts of terrorism. But Phlox talks about not executing his son. Yes, because he's his son, but also because of civilization and what the future is going to be. And it's hard to, without writing the words down verbatim. But his big argument is about civilization and about it, regardless if he's my son or not, we should go about this the right way, the decent way, the civilized way. Um, though of course I want him to go to trial, I want him to go to court, and I'm sure he will be found guilty, and that will be his cross to bear. That'll be something he has to live with, and I'll fully accept those consequences. But just deliberate slaughter right after the fact, when he is unarmed, unable to do anything he felt was wrong. But it just does so much for Phlox in terms of, here's his own son, who he will always love, but is not a good person. But maybe with time he can learn to be better. We also get a big tease for book 5 as well, because it seems like it is basically Archer. Archer, again, through the 2 books, or we had 4 books, I think. We had the 2 books set after the Enterprise show ended. Then we had the 2 books focused on the Romulan War. So that's 4 books. And then we've had these 4 books, with the last one being the 5th one, on the rise of the Federation. And over the course of all these stories, we have seen Archer, from the show to now, seen him go from explorer to soldier to leader to even something more. He is at a point now where, despite his best efforts, he's actually really good at politicking, at being a politician, at looking at the bigger picture. As much as he would rather be out there helping front and center, that's not his role anymore. And as he gets wiser, as he gets smarter, as the years go on, he's changed. And so the thing that he kind of, this isn't, set in stone, it isn't formally declared, but it seems to be that Archer's the one who basically comes up with the concept of the Prime Directive. In this book alone, because of the Wear, the Federation has gotten involved in things to help out because they see the Wear as a threat. But some of these civilizations didn't need their help, or were not advanced enough to warrant that. They worshipped the Wear. Is it our place to go and save them, though? These questions are posed. Archer thinks something like that should be implemented moving forward. We can't save everyone, and we can't be expected to get involved with everybody's business. That may not be ours. And Shran, Pink Skin, gets so mad about this. He says, no, it is our duty. And this is also a wonderful showing of character development, but also a detriment that makes you feel, bad and sad, because one of the things that made Shran become such close friends to Archer was, by and large, how similar Archer was to Shran. But as Archer's getting older, he's getting wiser, and he's changing. Shran is still Shran, but this causes conflict, because now Shran is upset with Archer. How will that go in book 5? Will they end up friends by the end of it again? Will, Shran come to understand this has to be done, or will Shran remain antagonistic for the remainder of Archer's life? I don't know. I guess maybe we'll find out in the next book. But that's by and large my spoiler thoughts, I guess, on the book. As I said, it's fun time. Nothing phenomenal, but definitely worth your time. After that, we finished with Rise of the Federation 5, Patterns of Interference. And after that, well, we're going to take a break from Star Trek, but we've done it. We've gone through the literary version of seasons 5 and 6 of the Star Trek Enterprise show. So I guess I can say definitively whether or not it was a worthy conclusion to the show by the time we finish it. But I hope you all join me for that. Until next time, live long and prosper. Bye-bye.